And we're back. Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. And we're moving now into our first segment. Our first conversation this morning is definitely a very important one. Now, we've got representatives in from Human Development who will be talking about hurricane relief efforts. Now, we've seen on social media, you know, with the onset of social media, you're able to see a lot of stuff.
The devastation is real.
Devastation is real. There are people out there who are saying, you know what, I'm not getting relief efforts. Some are saying, thank you so very much. Some are saying, we need some more. But in to talk to us about it, we've got Ganesha Smith, who is the Human Development Coordinator and Share Relief and Supplies, it says here. We also have Marcie Carballo, Human Development Coordinator and Deputy Chair, Relief Supplies Management Committee. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
And
Good
welcome.
morning. Thank you for your time because you are busy. Good morning.
Tell me, when bees see you, they're jealous, you know? Guys are that busy. But let's you know, it's 1 week after the devastation.
Yes, precisely.
Wednesday, this particular time, we weren't on the show. We had our folks who are solely for news purposes because we know, or we knew at that time, that this would have been big news. The hurricane came and it barreled across, especially central Belize, and it was with serious devastation. People lost roofs, they lost their homes. We saw the flooding and items and whatnot. And then feel stuck. We don't know where to go. We don't know how we're going. Where are we going to get the relief? But there is a human development and there is a ministry that is telling you that you are able to get relief. These are the things you must do. But again, we've got the folks in to tell us all about it. Ganesha or Marcie, any one of you, let's start. Let's talk about the human development. And how did we prepare for such a thing? The Met Service was saying from a few days, like, hey, this thing is coming.
From the Friday before.
How do you prepare for that? Let's talk about that side of things from the human development.
Okay, so first, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us. Let me explain how human development fits into relief. There is NEMA, the National Emergency Management Committee. And then, so our ministry is responsible for relief and supply. So we are one of the subcommittees under NEMA. In terms of preparation, we would take lead from NEMA. The disaster is coming, we start to procure items, we start to communicate with our vendors and our key partners in terms of preparing for what next. Relief and Supply Management Committee does not work prior to the storm. We would partially activate in terms of stocking shelters. So ensuring that shelters have dry washing, water, cleaning supplies for about 3 days maximum for persons entering the shelter. And then following the storm, we would then go into full activation where we start going out. And sometimes it depends on the severity of the storm. We would do blanket feeding. So had it been maybe a category 2 or a category 3, would have just gone out and service persons immediately without conducting any form of an assessment.
Yeah, because
this particular one, Lisa, we went in doing assessments first. So we have teams on the ground right now doing assessments, and then we distribute based on the assessment from the needs of each family.
And then, based on the needs, but do we section this by what area of the city?
Yes.
And I think that's a question that was also asked to the mayor in terms of trying to the cleanup of the city. How do we organize that? How do we find out where we're going first?
The assessment team, with the help of Mrs. Smith, she would definitely outline what areas we need to canvass after the storm. So we have had our charts up and we're trying to cover the entire city. But like we were discussing after relief, when it was all clear, one of the things that we noticed, we barely had any staff to respond because staff were affected. So we only started off canvassing 5 areas. Right? And then thereafter, as we're getting more volunteers and staff able to settle themselves in and come back, then we're able to move to wider sections of the city. But that's one of the challenge. While we know people are in need of support, urgent need of support, when it comes to the staff, the personnel on the ground, we're limited in how we move on the ground. So as much as we want to cover all persons or all households, we're unable to do so with the number of persons that we have on the ground.
Does human development, well, given that that is the situation, we just had members of the Red Cross and so forth a few days ago, and also the mayor talking about the campaign. Are you all collaborating with different stakeholders so that you're able to get a further reach than what you would expect?
One of the things that we were doing prior to Lisa, we were training volunteers. So NEMA, as well as our chairs within the different sections, they were reaching out to persons who are willing to support once a storm would hit the country. So prior to Lisa, we were training several volunteers in various communities. But one of the things that we saw post Lisa is that those persons that we have trained, not all responded after. So as much as we were saying, all right, we were ready because we have the number of persons trained, we have persons willing to support post Lisa, and I believe it's because a lot of people didn't think that the impact of Lisa would have been so great. So what we're seeing is that a lot of people were affected, and people have to pick up their lives and deal with their household before they come out and support.
Of course.
And the thing is, with our staff, even though some of them are greatly affected, and we see that with the BDF and the Coast Guard, they're still on the ground working. Right? So we really applaud staff efforts. We really applaud those who have come forward to support. But we're trying to cover as much ground, and we're asking for that grace upon us.
When it comes to oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, what I must say is that since Lisa, we have been getting a lot of support. We would want more, but we have been getting, what we have been doing is training first thing in the morning. So if you're going to volunteer for the day, we would ask you to come in at 7. We try to train you up until 8:30. And then when the team leaves, you're attached to a team, hoping that you would come back tomorrow. But again, in some instances, persons have to report back to their job. So.
What's the training like? There are a lot of people who might want to help, but this training must occur. You're going into areas where it's tough. So what is training like? What's the training?
When we're training based upon the assessment that we use out in the field. So the assessment covers demographic information for the household. It asks questions about the magnitude of the effects on your home, right? And the assessment, it's set up the way that it is because it feeds information to other units of NEMO that would address the needs. So we are relief and supply, so we would deal with the food, the water, TART, and then you have the other layer of NEMO that would deal with the structural damage. So that assessment covers a vast majority of information that is needed from these households. So when we're training staff or persons who are volunteering, it's important for them to get familiar with the questions that we ask and how to fill out those sections within the assessment form. And it's also important because a lot of people feel like just going out and asking questions is easy. When we're getting persons who are aggressive, persons who are emotional, when we're seeing people who may we have found children in home by themselves, assessors need to know how to respond to these matters. So the training part of it is very important. So we don't want to just send volunteers out and they're blindsided by what is out there. We have to orient them to how to move when they're out in the field. And we see that it's a challenge. Some people don't want to take on the assessment portion of it. We have had volunteers who come to us and say, hey, just let me just distribute. I'm going to back the bag, give it to the families, but I don't want to be the one on the ground asking the questions. And that's the area that we need more persons. We need more persons to be able to ask the questions and fill out the information, because that's what will help to feed the information to our partners to get the rations and so forth moving.
Based on their assessment so far, so it's already been a week, right? What is the primary thing that folks need right now?
Materials to rebuild and repair their house. And that's the thing that we have been seeing. While relief and supplies cover food. Water, People need that, yes.
Yes.
But a lot of people are without a
Without
home
shelter.
right now.
Yeah.
And it's tough to move and just leave water and food at the
There's no
door.
place
At the
to
door.
have
And
it.
there's no place
yeah.
else.
Roof
So,
compromise.
Yeah.
Still on your way.
Yes.
so what we're doing is from our ministry, a lot of the families that that have come to us that need those long-term assistance, they have been trying to work with landlords or owners of properties to work with the government to rent these families homes for short time periods while we figure out what the next level is. When we're talking about that next level, I don't know what that looks like because some people really were hit bad. So some homes are like, there's nothing to
There's nothing to
repair,
go back.
you know.
There was one in the news. There is that house is not there anymore.
And there's a lot more of that.
But let me
lot more.
ask you guys this. A few days ago I was visiting with relatives who have lost a part of their roof, and they're saying that if I hear a breeze, look, we can make fun of friends in the weekend.
I know,
lost
but
blow
it's true.
harder. I want to come out of this house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which brings me to talk about the mental aspect of this, because a lot of people have been, you felt that breeze was actually talking to you.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. But at the same time, I'm not stable. I'm not mentally stable after such things.
Yes.
Do we find this kind of relief from the Ministry of Human Development?
We don't directly provide the services in
Okay.
terms of the immediate counseling that they need. But if it is a client that it's not open to the general public, but if it is a client that the department or any one of the departments under the ministry has been working with, and they would seek us out for that type of support, we would definitely offer that to them and source it wherever we can. Because we recognize that while the physical structure, the financial issues, mentally it is telling a toll, because we're seeing it reflecting in the actions, like children being left alone, parents being supervising their children. A lot of things are happening.
Yeah.
So we recognize it's a ripple effect as a result of the hurricane, no?
And the thing is, we do have a counseling unit under our ministry, but
Okay.
our counselors are in the field right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So these are some of the limitations that we're seeing coming out post Lisa. But we do try our best once we're seeing persons in distress that we make a referral quickly to our key partners to get them assessed, especially if it's mental health. Within the hospitals, we would do that. So and that's why I emphasize persons going out, they have to be properly trained to do these assessments.
Right.
The fact that you all, your focus is supposed to be relief and supplies.
Yes.
And given the situation of most of these supplies are materials for your home, how does your department then maneuver through that? Do you have to collaborate with somebody else? Do you ask for funding from your department? How does that work now?
Well, in terms of the immediate food ration, water and supplies, we would get that from NEMA.
Okay.
Where NEMA would not have sufficient, we would source from vendors we have signed MOU with prior to the storm.
Yes.
So we have a couple of stores providing 1,000 food packs for us a day and stuff like that. We have also had persons contacting us wanting to volunteer or assist. How can they?
Yes.
Can they send mattresses? Can they send hygiene kits? So we have been accepting those as well, because we do need all the support that we can.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there, like we mentioned, clamoring for help, but there are too many people who need that help, and not a lot of people out on the grounds who are actually who are able to go and assist at this particular point. If I need help, what do I do?
We have a team coming out. We have teams in every single area of the country. And so we're asking persons to stay at home. What has been happening, people are going out trying to seek help. And so when officers are going back distributing, they would say, miss my house, or nobody never come to my house. But it's because you're not there. We're trying to target each area street by street. And so if persons would be available at that time, they start at 7, they finish at 6. And so we're asking persons to stay at home. Most persons are coming to where we are located at our command center, but we're not doing any assessments there.
Yeah.
We're going into your homes because we need to see a little bit more than just have a conversation. But
Yeah.
exactly, because what we recognize, and we were just talking about this earlier this morning, is that some people are still trying to bounce back from COVID.
Yeah.
And so when another disaster hits, I mean, it's, you know, it's compounding. And so we recognize that.
Yeah.
So we're asking, please stay at home. Assessors, you can call the Department of Human Services. We will take your name and number, and a team will be assigned to your location, and assessment will be done there.
Are you all getting assistance from the different departments out district, or how are you all? I could come and volunteer, however, whenever. But in terms of your partnerships with the different departments in the country,
We recently got some staff from audit that are supporting. We had some last week from Treasury
Tax services.
and tax services. But one of the things that we need is the consistency in assessors. Because when we have a couple today, it would definitely throw off our flow once we don't get that number back the following day to canvass the areas. So I know a lot of people are frustrated and saying that we are not meeting them soon enough,
Timely.
in a timely fashion. But we have our challenges as well, and we are doing our best.
the city is big.
It is.
And
It is.
It's
Is it
not.
small?
No,
I'm
no.
just saying.
The city is big.
When
and
you're
the
working-
amount of staff members
Yes,
that you have.
and that's it. The number of people working the ground is not a large quantity to canvass areas as quickly as we would like.
Yeah.
So we're trying our best and moving in areas that we know had urgent needs, like the most vulnerable areas, and then we're moving our way through to other areas.
So what are these vulnerable areas that the most vulnerable in the city at least?
We saw Port Leola for sure, who took a good hit.
Especially with the sea surge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then we saw Collect Division, especially down Antelope area into the Land and Bridge, area warehouses
that area
are.
community, yeah.
And then in Gongolong, we have been canvassing
Independence.
Lake Independence. But when you're thinking about it, a lot of scattered in the various areas.
Yes.
The magnitude of destruction was great.
All
so
over.
it's all over. So to meet all of those persons at once, we're not able to, but we're definitely moving in those areas. And if people call in and tell us they know of somebody here, we're trying to work on that. So we're just asking for that consideration as we move our way through, and trying to support as best as we can different families that
What
need it.
areas do you have left, and where is your mapping operations headed to now?
So we started Mesopotamia yesterday and picked stock. Albert Division, and we are continuing with Collect. We're continuing with Port. We're wrapping up Belama, the phase 1 to 5 today. And then we're just going to be spacing out our staff into the bigger areas like Port Leola, and Collect and Lake Independence.
Yeah.
Those are our huge area that we definitely need more staff on the ground to cover.
We speak a lot about Belize City, but the brunt of this thing was actually the Northern Lagoon area, I think. So, which means rural communities.
Yes.
What are we seeing in the rural communities, and are they receiving the help that they need?
Yes, we do have 2 other RSMC teams located in Belize Rural Central and Belize Rural North, and they too are activated. We are seeing a lot of people affected within those areas as well.
Yeah.
So similarly to what we are doing, those teams in those areas are doing their assessments and distributing as we speak as well.
Yeah.
This is also, I would think, data collecting time for the Human Development Department. Now, we could talk about Earl as well. I mean, it was a few years ago. I think it was, 2016, somewhere around there? I'm sure, I think
2020.
2020? No, it was Nana, 2020.
No, yes.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
Nana 2020.
2016
So I think it was
was Earl.
2016, around there, Earl. So when it comes to data collection, what are we collecting with respect to data? And what is expected of these families with respect to the questions that are asked of them?
So in terms of the type of information, we're asking how many persons are living in the household, what is the ratio in terms of adult to child, persons who are employed, who are not employed, who are attending school, who are pregnant, anyone suffering from mental illness, breastfeeding. And so those are the type of information we're trying to gather. And I think the previous disaster has helped us in terms of how much to prepare, how much to procure.
Data collection.
That's right. So within RSMC, we have an entire unit that looks at collecting and analyzing our data. So what we do is all these assessments are feed into a system called COBA, a database called COBA. And so we could pull numbers from that. So I can readily tell you that in Belize City, we have assessed a little bit under 2,000, and that is not including what was brought in yesterday. In the rural areas, it is a little bit over 1,000 assessments completed and distributed to. So we're looking at that to prepare in the event another disaster should come this way.
So what is expected of the human development today? What's going to happen today?
The same as we have been doing. We're going out in the field, assessing and distributing food, water, tarp, mattresses, whatever the needs are that comes in from the assessors.
And if I want to volunteer, who do I call? Where do I go?
Volunteer, you could come to our hub station right now where we're at IT Vet to sign up with us. If you're volunteering through your work could make contact with one of us, and we will get that going and organizing persons by teams. So
sure.
No, I was just going to say we have also had volunteers from SJCJC and UB for community services, so they also have volunteered to do. Besides
volunteer work, what are the needs of human development so as to being able to provide for those who need?
It's basically the volunteers. We need person to go out on the ground and to get the assessments done for us to provide timely distribution.
Wow.
And we need volunteers who understand that this is not going to be easy, because we have had volunteers who come and when they see the work that we do on the ground, they're like, no, I'm not doing this, because our assessors are out in the sun hot. They're in these fields for some time, long period. Our assessors came in after one team from Pickstock came in after 7 last night. So the hours is not the regular 8 to 5. We need persons who would be willing to work beyond those time periods.
And perhaps that's probably another reason, because right now people are either focusing on rebuilding their own home, or they're getting back to work, and so they don't have the time
to get back into a routine.
Right.
And generally, what some of the feedback we got, it became an eye-opener to a lot of our volunteers, because they were not exposed to persons' living conditions, persons' financial situation. And so for some people it came as a trigger, some people it was alarming, and so they were not able to process all of that. So they decided to, you know what, let me step back, because this is not for me. So that's why we had a lot of changeover in terms of who comes to volunteer.
One more question for me in terms of redundancy. So I know you all are doing the supply and relief and so forth, but so are other persons like Red Cross and so on. So how do you navigate as to not clash or to not have to repeat the same supplies and so forth?
We have been having that conversation. It's something that we really want to see in future disaster, that there is more of a collaborated efforts, whereby when we're canvassing these areas, we could work alongside each other to say, all right, we will cover this area, you could cover that area, and somebody else cover that area, so that we don't get the feedback like what we have been seeing of persons double dipping, right? Because we have had that issue, and we understand, and people are getting frustrated with that, because you have a set of persons who keep on just trying to find creative ways to get more. And
but it also helps your reach as well. So if Red Cross is already covering Gongulong, then you all can carry on in a different
But location. I know with Red Cross, they have a specific type of support that they provide
as well.
So we just have to work alongside each other to see how we can,
what we would want to do is just to coordinate it a little bit more. RSMC has a mandate to service the entire country. And so what we would want, if you or your organization would want to contribute, donate, then communicate with us, and we can tell you, well, this is more our need. This is what we would want you to give, rather than us duplicating and giving ration packs continuously over and over when we
Yes.
can meet the other gaps in the
Well,
area. So we would want that.
again,
Yes.
that's with data collection because
Right.
the Ministry of Human Development we are all over the country,
Yeah.
and so therefore we will know exactly where to how to. So
Right.
if your ministry who would like
Yeah.
to make a donation or whatnot, give me a call, man. Hey, which area need most? Then
Yeah.
we'll tackle that area,
Right.
so we know where else to go.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so you guys are right when it comes to that. It's all about the communication aspect
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you guys would like to share with us before we wrap up?
I mean, I just need to say thank you. I have to shout out the Ministry of Human Development staff.
Yes.
I must say that they're on the ground every day. They're up at 5, they get home at 11, and it's a constant go since last week, Wednesday. And so we want to say thank you to each and every social worker and support staff out there. We appreciate the work that you're doing, and we continue to go.
And we want to big up our forces, the BDF and Coast Guard, who
Yeah.
has been walking alongside us, going out, supporting with protection of our staff as well on the ground when they're distributing. So we really applaud them and we appreciate their support
Right.
during this time period.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
ladies.
thank you, ladies, for joining us this morning. It was a great conversation.
Yes.
And these are conversations we need to continue to have. How to help people and where to get these relief from. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. April, we're about to take a
We
break.
are going
but
to
I'll tell
take
you
a
what, today marks 1 week since Lisa devastated at least Belize City and surrounding communities. Some schools were destroyed. Some schools were actually used for hurricane shelter. While the situation continued to be that, the Ministry of Education said, but we need to roll on with schools. We actually missed 2 years. We need to push things on. The BNTU is at odds with that. They'll be in to talk to us about that when we come back. Stay with us.